What is it about the perfect persuasion window that gets people to buy? Like, why does that deadline add so much urgency?
So the perfect persuasion window is a term that I came up with for the last the last 24 hours before the deadline. And so when you look at live launches or now automated promotions, but anything that ends in a deadline, you will see that typically there's a burst of sales when the offer is first made available. Some people call that cart open. Things die off a little bit or slow down a little bit. But then the biggest day of sales is the last day before the deadline. And so I call that the perfect persuasion window because, in terms of metrics where you're looking at revenue per hour, revenue per email, or revenue per click, your all the stats that you want going up and to the right are going up and to the right. So the reason why that happens there's a lot of reasons, but I mean fundamentally it comes down to procrastination. And so there's a lot of people who are going through your messaging, your marketing funnels, who are leaning into your offer. They're interested, they're clicking on things, they're watching videos, they're reading blog posts, they're reading emails, but there's just there's just procrastination. It's more comfortable not taking action than taking action. I mean, and certainly there are people who instantly raise their hand and say, "I'm in. This is exactly what I was looking for." The hell yes people. But then there's an even bigger slice of the pie, which are the hell no's. Like, it's just like, this isn't for me, or not now, whatever. But there's that critical extra slice of people that most people are not getting, which is everyone who is interested. They're attending the webinars, reading emails, clicking the links, watching the videos, but they're just not pulling the trigger. And it's the deadline that gets them over that hump, gets them off the fence. And so anyone who's ever done a launch or promotion recognizes that if you're doing it correctly, you're going to see more sales on the last day. And so the idea behind Deadline Funnel was, well, what if you could replicate that in a way that wasn't lying? Because if you waited past your deadline, then your deadline is gone. You couldn't actually buy, or you didn't get the special deal. That's another variation of it. Well, what you would have is you would have every single day on your calendar would be that perfect persuasion window, depending on how you set up your marketing funnels. And so you're maximizing conversions for that cohort of people that are going through your messaging sequence.
And so should people be applying deadlines to a majority of their or all of their sales and offers, or should they stagger them a little bit so there's no like deadline fatigue or anything like that?
Well, I think every situation is different, and what we found is that most clients come to our doorstep with a pretty good idea in their mind of what it is that they want to build. Now, we provide training that helps people understand some different variations that they can consider, but most people have already heard from a thought leader or someone that they're already following. There's a certain type of a funnel that they want to build. So, for example, Amy Porterfield's audience want to mostly replicate what Amy's doing, and Perry's people mostly want to replicate what he's doing, et cetera. A lot of the things that I've done successfully over the years is working with thought leaders and doing training based integration marketing, and so our stuff is kind of built into the back end teachings and lessons and courses that some of the biggest thought leaders out there are putting out. And so, to answer your question, there's no simple answer to this, but I just want to keep in mind that you mentioned deadline fatigue. I don't think that there's necessarily deadline fatigue if you're making sure that you're not letting your subscribers go through two different messaging sequences at the same time. I mean, you should be having a very focused conversation with someone based on the interest that they're in, based on your segmentation. And so there should be really one deadline. I don't necessarily think that there would be fatigue. And the point is that if you're using our technology, the deadline is real. So there's really not. I don't think that there would be fatigue. I haven't seen that. I mean, we have people who have just gotten fantastic results by using it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And what do you say to people that feel like having a deadline feels a little bit too pushy?
Yeah, so I hear this sometimes, and the answer is that if you think about how you've made decisions in your life, I bet some of the most important decisions that you've ever made revolved around a deadline, and some of the most important life changing moments probably kicked off with a deadline. So one of the things that I like to tell people is a favorite story of mine is shortly after I arrived in Australia, I met with a friend of mine named Michael, and he was having dinner with me and my wife, and he happened to mention that in 2 weeks' time he was going on a kite surfing trip to Fiji. And as an oh by the way, because he really wasn't his intention wasn't to say hey you should go, but he happened to mention there were two seats, two people had canceled at the last moment, and my wife perked up and said, "Are those seats still available?" And I had always wanted to learn how to kite surf. I'd just never taken the time to do it. I'd always wanted to go to Fiji. I mean, and I was just jumping at the chance to be able to do this. But it wasn't, hey, I want to go, but 2 weeks from now isn't really convenient for me. Can we go in 2 months? It's like, no, this is when we're going. So if you can get there and you pay your money, you're on the trip. And so there's a deadline. I've become hopelessly addicted to kite surfing, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoy. And I can't imagine what my experience would be if I didn't have that in my life. But if you back it all up, it started with a deadline. And I'm not sure I actually would have gone like taken the steps to go. I could have started kite surfing at any time, right? There's nothing that prevented me from doing it, but it was that deadline and urgency that made me say, okay, I've got to get 2 lessons now in before I go on this trip because I want to maximize my time when I'm there. It's all about the deadline. So how does this, someone might be thinking, well, that's fine. That's a trip to Fiji. I'm not offering a trip to Fiji, but that's the point. The point is that are you looking, so if someone says, it feels too pushy, to me, that really, I hold up the mirror and say, look, if you're being honest with yourself, do you feel like you're actually offering someone that could be that life-changing trip to Fiji? Do you feel like what you're offering someone truly is going to change their life for the better if it's the right person? You absolutely should understand that some people are not a good fit for your stuff, and you should tell them. But if there are those people where without the deadline they're not going to pull the trigger. So if you truly believe in what it is that you're selling and the impact that it can have on their life, then by not having the deadline, I mean, the deadline isn't pushy. The deadline is what it's going to take for them to, you know, stop procrastinating. And what I've heard clients tell me is that, you know, not only has it improved their business, but they get their own clients coming back to them and saying, "I'm so glad that you had that deadline because I would not have pulled the trigger had it not been for that deadline. That's the extra push that I needed to join your program."
And how do you recommend people go about crafting that compelling offer? Because if they're offering, to your point, if they're offering no matter how great the deadline is, if it's a terrible product and a terrible offer, people aren't going to convert on it. So
Oh yeah.
what are kind of your tips for crafting a compelling offer?
Well, first, let's start with something that you said, which is deadlines are not going to revive a crap offer. You can't. Perry has this phrase: "You can't steer a parked car." If you've got something that no one wants, slapping a deadline on the sales page or in your emails isn't going to fix it. But what it will do is that if you are getting traction with your audience, it will magnify what you already have going on. You just can't multiply at zero. All right. So um, to the point about the offer, what do you need to have? There's entire courses that have been built around how to build an offer, but let me just throw out a few ideas. So one of the first things that I think fundamentally you have to decide, and there's no right or wrong, it's just how you want to run your business, and it could be one way for one product that you offer and one way for a different product. But are you going to have something available all the time? But when people are going through a particular uh, channel or funnel, that you're going to give them a special offer. That's one type of messaging. Another type of messaging would be this is only available for you during this specific time. And if you wait, it may be months or possibly a year before you can even buy it again. So there's no right or wrong. It just depends on which way. But let's go with one of my favorite ones, one that I use, which is yes, you can purchase this at any time. You don't have to purchase this now. However, there's a price discount and extra bonuses if you take this. And so, just so you can prove to yourself that this is special, go to our homepage and you'll see that yes, you can buy it any time, but not with what you're getting today. And so, when an example of when you might use something like this would be on a webinar or a Facebook Live or something like that with a special audience that you have, or you could have certain types of advertising funnels that bring people into a specific email sequence. So those are a few ways that you could do that. But specific to the funnel, one of the easiest things, but you don't have to price discount. But one of the easiest things is to offer a price discount. Um, in addition to that, you can also offer special bonuses. The choosing of bonuses is something that I've I've taught people about. There's right ways and wrong ways to choose bonuses, but if you choose the right bonuses, that can really help incentivize the make the offer way more special. So you can use both of those together, or you could say, I'm not going to do a discount, but I am going to have these killer bonuses. The killer bonus could be a 30-minute call with you. It depends on what it is that you're selling. If you're selling a widget on your Shopify store, that may not be the best bonus. If you're selling an online course and you're offering a 30-minute call with you or your team, that could be an incredibly valuable bonus. So it really just kind of depends on what it is that you're selling. Another component to offers would be not just the price, but also how the payments are structured. So there are things like soft offers. You could do, $0 now, 14-day trial. I mean, that's how Deadline Funnel is. You pay nothing now, enter your credit card, try it for 14 days. That's in the biz, that's called a soft offer. There are other variants of that where it's, $1 for 7 days. There are structuring it for payments. So like normally it's $1,000, but you could break this out as five $225 payments, something like that. So you can break it out into payments. So there's different ways to play with exactly how people pay for it. And sometimes just even if it's the same amount, just breaking it out over a longer period of time can increase the number of people who take you up on that offer. So those are some of the key components. I know I'm leaving out quite a bit, but as I mentioned, there could be a multi-hour training on exactly how to craft offers. But those are some of the key components to think about.
And do you have any tips for eliminating friction in your funnel? Because if there's things that hurdles people have to overcome just to purchase your product, that increases the chance that they're not going to complete the transaction. So is there anything that you've seen, any easy ways to reduce friction through the buying process?
Um, Reduce friction. So when you say reduce friction, I don't want to go in a direction that you're not thinking. I mean, where my mind automatically goes to is you should definitely be looking at your checkout pages, and I would say having proof elements on your checkout page, reducing the number of fields, testing out a two-step checkout process, things like that. Having a cart abandon sequence, like those are the types of things that I think about in terms of increasing conversion rates at the checkout. I don't know if any of those. I mean, you tell me. Would any of those qualify in your mind as answering the question of
I think
reducing friction?
that, yeah, I think that all qualifies as answering my question. So that was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you one of the most important places that you can one of the big levers that you can use to increase your sales, whether you're using a deadline or not, is to take a really hard look at your checkout page process. Are there proof elements you can put there? Could you put a testimonial from a client? Sometimes it's as simple as just explaining, either in the video before they reach there or in text that's on the page. Like, as soon as this happens, here's what's going to happen next. You're going to get an email from me with your login details. You're also going to get the quick start 7-day email sequence that's going to walk you through the process. Like, whatever it is, just clearly explaining, here's what's going to happen next. Because when they've got their credit card out or they're about to get their credit card out, that's when some doubts can definitely creep in about, I don't know, like what is behind this door? What is actually going to happen? Am I going to regret this? You certainly want to, if you have a guarantee policy, that's another part of the offer that I forgot to mention. is the guarantee. So, some people don't have a guarantee. Some people have a very powerful guarantee. Some people have a multiple guarantees. So there's risk reversal there. Are you giving them a 30-day full money back guarantee? There's lots and lots of different ways just to structure the guarantee, and it's not just what the guarantee is; it's how you describe it. Sort of going back to my uncle at the veterinary clinic, like, you know, two people could have the same guarantee. It's 30 days money back. One person describes it in a way where you feel like, wow, I can't lose, and the other person describes it, you don't even hear it, just because everyone talks about 30 days money back satisfaction guarantee. Like, you almost don't even hear those words anymore. So it's also how you message and language the guarantee.